Back to another video games of 2016 that aren't Final Fantasy 15. Or maybe one of them is. Who knows?
Maybe.
I'm Alex O'Neill, your top 10 person in top 10 form, top 10 shape. Uh, and today I'm joined by Trevor Starkey,
Hello.
the snarkiest man on earth.
I am certainly one of them.
Top 10, maybe?
Probably top 10. Top 10 of the snarkiest men with snarky in their handle on Earth. We'll go with that.
The snarkiest Starkey, possibly.
Yes.
Maybe.
Certainly the snarkiest Starkey.
Yeah, of the Starkey clan.
Suck it, Ringo.
Oh! Oh!
Oh, I'm throwing down against a beetle. Absolutely. It's going to be one of those nights, Alex.
You start low. You just build and build. No, we start high and the train just flies off the rails into the ravine, exploding. That actually might be it getting better. Who knows? We'll find out. Trevor, last year you were on this.
Yes. I'm so humbled and honored to have been invited back.
It's touch and go for a minute there.
That's absolutely fair.
No, of course. I liked the I had not finalized anything yet. And I liked it was you and Barrett at PSX. They were like, yeah, so when we sit down and do my top 10 list, these are some things. And I was like, oh, so you're doing a top 10 list with me. Okay.
I disagree. I believe I said to you, hey, if you want to bring in new blood, I will gladly take a seat on this one.
Yeah,
you came to me at PSX and were like, yeah, I've got you and Barrett on my list as the two people I know.
Two of them, yeah.
So spin however you want to spin it for your audience, Alex.
Barrett very much.
I was there wrong.
Barrett very much was like, hey, so when we're doing the list, and I'm like, oh, so when? But yeah, I wanted to bring you guys back. It was you and Cam. I mean, you guys didn't have podcasts last year.
That's true. Yeah, thank you again for having me last year when I had nothing to plug outside of my own site.
And now you have a podcast and a website.
I do. Well, I had the website at least going.
Yeah, you were troving it up. And now you've written for like a year. You know, it's just boring to you now.
I don't know. I'm somewhere in the 400s. I saw you were at 660 today as we're recording.
660, yeah.
Congrats.
666 is coming up. I'm pretty excited.
That. Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna write a big thing about Doom.
That's immediately what I went to.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Yeah, you're all established and you're a freelancer for IGN.
Freelancing for IGN now. I haven't done anything with them recently, but yes, technically I still am on their payroll.
Yeah. Oh, you've come a long way.
Yeah, it's been a year.
It's been a minute. So I mean that's exciting. I think that's
absolutely
cool. And you have now some of the longest clocking podcasts that have ever been recorded, I think.
Yep. I got a 5.5 hour one out there with Zyger.
Is that the longest one?
That's, I believe, certainly the longest one of any of mine. Yeah,
we can top that.
They probably average around like 4 hours.
When I come back as the first returning guest. Somebody
thinks they're coming back now, eh?
See this table. This goes both ways.
Yes.
When I come back as the first returning guest, we can top that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Clear a day. 24-hour podcast. People do that for fundraisers. I'll do that for fun.
That's
full stop.
That will be our extra life next year.
Yeah,
that will be my extra life. I'll just have you on and we'll just talk for 24 hours and then you'll still do your Irrational Passions one.
Yeah, exactly. I could do 2 sets of 24 hours. It wouldn't kill me physically.
Yeah,
I'm already sleeping plenty. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure I'll be fine. This is the 8th that I've done this week of these. So let's get into it. I'm excited. Right. I haven't really seen your list. I didn't read the thing you did for OK Beast, so I'm relatively in the dark. Although I saw Nobishin's list the other day. Spoilers.
Way to go, Nobishin.
I know, he's just tweeting about it. God, nothing is sacred anymore. So let's start with honorable mentions.
Sure. So I got a handful, and I'm sure by the time this will have posted, I'll have written like a full kind of post on Trevor Trove about my honorable mentions. But we'll just kind of bum rush through some of them today. So first up, I have like a most improved being Watch Dogs 2, Watch_Dogs 2, as it is appropriately dubbed on the box. I didn't like venomously hate the first Watch Dogs, but I was looking back, it was like on my worst of 2014 list. And it was like on there more so because of just all of the missed potential and how like I've basically written it's not on there for being exceptionally bad, it's on there for being exceptionally bland. And Watch Dogs 2 kind of improved upon that in every manner. The only real problem I think I still had with the game was just it still has those Ubisoft controls that I just don't gel with all that well.
Hold R2 to parkour, right?
Yeah. Ugh. So yeah, it's I really enjoyed the time I've put in with that. I haven't like gone through enough of the story to really have considered it too much for my my like top tens or anything, but just kind of dicking around in the open world was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about it. I don't really like traditional open world games.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I like given my growing love of San Francisco, it was a ton of fun to just kind of dive into that world in their facsimile of it.
Yeah.
So up next, I have best game trapped in an outdated engine, which is Batman, a Telltale series.
Oh yeah.
Because I think you and I are very, very much aligned in like our love of the story and the like the choices and everything that are made, but like the bugs and the glitches and the frame rate like tear down of that game just kind of really put a huge damper on the experience for me.
Yeah, I think I was lucky in that I didn't get as much as that of that. Like it never crashed for me. So
yeah, I didn't have any crashes, any flat out crashes, but I did have like just like drastic stutters. Oh no, I did in episode 2. I did have a crash. It crashed after like the opening scene in the in Crime Alley on me. So that was like the worst of it. But then, I mean, by the time episode 5 rolled around, I still had I had a ton of those frame rate dips and like the quote unquote invisible man glitch.
Yeah.
Struck. And yeah, it was disappointing because the story that's in there is up there among probably it's probably my favorite dramatic Telltale story at this point. My favorite comedic and overall still being Tales from the Borderlands from last year. So it was disappointing to have such a great story kind of chained to just Telltale's really, really bad, old, outdated engine that needs to be really overhauled, I think.
Yeah. Or just sent off to die.
Or sent off to die and come up with something new. So yeah, I'm sitting here like I really want to play Guardians of the Galaxy next year when that comes out, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to like continue supporting them if they just keep doling out like such an unpolished product.
Yeah. It's a bummer. I'm glad I had a pretty good experience with it. The stories I've heard have just been a bummer for me, but
yeah,
I really liked it quite a bit.
Yeah. Up next, since none of them make my top 10, but I have a best VR experience. I played a lot of PlayStation VR this year, and I'm going to give that to the Job Simulator game, which is just a ton of fun and quirky humor from Alchemy Labs. A lot of fun, just absolutely my kind of humor of like, oh, the robots have kind of taken over the world. So this is what it was like to be a human, and you can throw things like on a copying machine, and you can basically copy a stapler and get another stapler to spit out of the printer and stuff, and just fun little dumb stuff like that. Just made it a great experience that I could introduce people to very easily, as well as just have fun myself on it. And I got to at PAX West, I got to play the next game they're working on, which is the Rick and Morty VR game, which is going to be a lot of the same kind of humor matched with the humor of that show. And so I can't wait for that experience and where they go next. So that was VR for me. Best game on the go, I would say, was Severed. Really enjoyed that on the Vita this year. I love Drinkbox's art style. So I had a ton of fun kind of revisiting that. It's very much in the same vein as Guacamelee, but this time with like first person Metroidvania-esque dungeon crawling, and like that meets Fruit Ninja. It was just a lot of fun. I really had a good old time with it. My only gripe ended up being that it was just too short of an experience. Like I wanted more out of it than I think it ultimately delivered on. But it was a lot of fun for what it was.
Cool.
And then the last one I want to go ahead and just give a shout out to, because I really loved it, but it just barely misses my top 10, is the best fall shooter, Titanfall 2.
Oh God,
Right?
Trevor.
Yeah,
Now it hurts like more.
that's good.
Two layers of pain.
Yeah, it's like I loved it, and so this we had an exchange earlier on on Twitter tonight where Nabashin finished it and didn't match our love of the game, and I really like it. It certainly of everything that came out this fall, it was my favorite. I love the level design of it, the story, absolutely. All the criticism that is hurled at the story is, in my opinion, very much founded.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the main character Cooper or whatever at all.
Jack Cooper.
Jack Cooper, wannabe pilot. But the way they incorporated new mechanics into every level kept every level of that game fresh and fun and like just enjoyable. And it did the wall running and the parkour stuff, which was in Infinite Warfare, but I completely forgot it was in Infinite Warfare for most of the game until like the one or two sections that like kind of brought it to the forefront. Whereas here it was like front and center for so many missions and segments in Titanfall 2, and it was just fun, felt great, and yeah, it was and like being in the Titan as well felt great. I hadn't played the first Titanfall, and honestly, I probably wouldn't have picked this one up if it didn't have. Well, I certainly wouldn't have picked it up if it didn't have single player. But I was ultimately incredibly surprised and impressed by how good the single player was.
Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah. So
not good enough for Trevor Starkey, though.
Not for my top 10. No, nope. Just misses the top 10.
These all better be 10s then.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I know you like a couple of them.
At least one, maybe two.
Looking ahead. So number 10, and this is absolutely a cheat, and fine, I don't give a shit.
There was so many cheats this year. God damn it.
Well, so if you had read the thing that I did for OK Beast prior to this, which was that was our friend Blessing's site, I gave him a top 10 list a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And both of these games were on it, but then something came and surpassed it. And I didn't want to really give either of these games short shrift. So both of them are tied at 10 instead of being like 10 and 9 as they were on my original kind of count. And I think they blend well nicely together because they complement each other. And that would be Brutal and Oxenfree. So Brutal both of them have beautiful art designs. Brutal is very ASCII-based dungeon crawler roguelike, which weirdly, like, I normally hate roguelikes, but I really connected with this one. Got to kick the crap out of Raj Pakorni in the review window as we were playing it. I was like there at the top of the charts, just crushing him. So just putting that on the record.
It's actually in his video review of that game. You can see your name above his name in the leaderboards. It's pretty great.
I included it in my written review as well, where I included a screenshot of his name below my name.
Summer Rogers just burned alive.
Yeah. So yeah, but I really can like it. It did that thing that I think is the quality of a good roguelike, where there was like a tipping point where I was like, oh, I get it now. I get what I'm supposed to do. And from there on, it was like just fun, smooth sailing. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Combat was great. The art style, again, I loved so much since I saw it at last year's PSX when it was kind of revealed. The everything being made out of ASCII was a lot of fun. And then Oxenfree doesn't have much in the way of gameplay, but it had a great story behind it from the beginning of the year. Really enjoyed it. Like great ghost story kind of thing. It was Stranger Things before we had Stranger Things a little bit. Mm-hmm. very much in the same vein as a Telltale game, so that kind of like took the Telltale slot because it ran better than Batman did. So yeah, I had a ton of fun with that. It was just like a creepy, something was off in the world, and it was fun to explore that. I played through it probably 3 or 4 times,
wow.
exploring a whole bunch of different, like the different paths you could take and the different narrative choices and stuff. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. So
Yeah.
wanted to give it its due.
I was thinking about picking that up and playing it this week sometime.
I mean, if you're just doing like a standalone play, it's probably only like 3 or 4 hours long, I think.
Okay.
If you just kind of like run through the whole thing, it's certainly like manageable in that kind of dose.
I don't know who I talked to. It might have been one of the Logans that I did this with, and I was like, "How long is it?" Just so I would know. And they were like, "It can't." I think one of them said, "Oh, it can't be more than 10 hours long." And I was like, "Geez, okay, 3 to 4 is a lot less."
Yeah, I mean, the whole story takes place like over a night, in the game world, and it's like they try and keep it, I think, mostly like, oh, what's the like
Succinct.
yeah, there's some jumps in time and stuff, and but yeah, it's certainly it's a game you can play in one sitting, all the way through, no problem.
Okay.
And then yeah, I enjoyed it enough to go back and explore kind of what some of the other decisions would have looked like.
All right. What about number 9? I guess
So number 9,
was 10, just 10,
that
one,
was
2 games.
That was 10. That was 10 and 10. Number 9, Final Fantasy 15.
Woo! Oh wait, are we talking about Final Fantasy 15? Let me open my beer.
There we go.
All right.
So
Let's strap it.
if you followed me recently, you probably saw a very scathing review that I put out about Final Fantasy 15.
I didn't see it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you didn't look at it. I'm talking to your audience now, Alex. There are a lot of things I hate about this game, namely story and the characters, just because it feels so piecemeal, and like a whole bunch of stuff that needed to be in there got cut and edited out. But I don't want to dwell on the negative. This is your show. You are a huge fan of this game. So I wanted to give it its due, because even for me, a bad Final Fantasy game is still a great game. And the combat in this game was incredible, to the point that I was willing to slog through the 70 hours of like the 5 hours of story, but then 65 hours of like having fun with side quests and just the combat of the game, like the fights and everything. After I wrote my giant opus against the game, I hopped right back into it in some of the post game content, and just ended up playing for like another 3 hours that night. So there are a lot of problems with that game, but ultimately I had a good time with it. Had a great time with it, and wanted to give it some honorary end of the year love. It's a very love-hate relationship.
One of the 10 best games of 2016 is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
There you go. The 9th best.
Yes, the 9th best, thanks almost exclusively to its great combat. On the worst of list that I'm posting tomorrow, like the story and everything gets a dishonorable mention, but best of, and you're getting the inside scoop on this, of course, Alex, as we're recording this well before I publish any of this stuff.
I mean, by the time people hear it, it's, you know.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm talking specifically to you in this moment. But yeah, I like up until chapter 9 of that game, I loved so much of it. And then it like went full bore into the story that I'd been like looking for, and it just didn't deliver what I wanted out of that story. But I had no problem. I loved doing just like, I mean, what, like a lot of it just kind of boils down to like random fetch quests, but I had enough fun doing all those random fetch quests, because the combat, which I was like, it's crazy, like looking back, because combat was one of the things I'd been most worried about
Mm-hmm.
with the game. Ever since like the episode Dusky demo, I was like, it feels too heavy. It's not like I'm certainly an evangelist for like the old school turn-based stuff. Um, and then I honestly think, actually, and I've told Allie this as well, that I think playing Bloodborne actually like made me a better Final Fantasy 15 player
It's
because
part
of
of
all
that there, yeah.
the parry mechanics and stuff. So um, it's certainly like, with all of the prompts being right up there, it's certainly like baby's first Bloodborne, I'm sure. But I certainly was in a much better mindset to be open to parrying as opposed to just like normally hacking and slashing like I would through those games.
Yeah.
So yeah, Final Fantasy 15. As much as I hate about it, I still enjoyed it.
All right. I'll
All
take
right.
it. What about number 8?
Number 8, Stories: The Path of Destinies,
Oh yeah.
which
This
um,
game.
as we're recording this, and as hopefully as I before I get it published, is like a PS Plus game this month. So if you haven't already downloaded it, Alex, you should.
I have downloaded it. It is on my PS4. So
Fun fantasy, um, like narrative, um, very whimsical. The whole story is by one narrator who does voices for all the characters. It's very like audiobook in that regard. And I loved it's another one that you can play through like the first time. Um, 5-act structure, probably play through that in an hour and a half. And the game intends you to play through it multiple times with choosing multiple paths. So much so that like you need to get like the true ending of the game. You need to collect like 4 pieces of critical narrative that you'll only get by going through certain paths. Like the first time I went through, for example, I chose a path that revealed to me that this character that I thought I could trust was just going to betray me. So when you finish the first playthrough, it's like, okay, well, what went wrong? Let's roll back to the beginning of time. And now you have this knowledge that this character is going to betray you. So a new option comes up when it comes to like addressing him. Like instead of just the, hey, yeah, go with this guy because you think he's a good guy. It's like, you've got this nagging feeling that something isn't right here.
huh.
So it gives you like a new branch that you can kind of go off of. And I thought it was just a really interesting, unique way of telling that kind of story. Fun, just very whimsical little game.
Yeah. Is it like a top down
It's
hack
like
and slash?
isometric hack and slash. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. It looks cute.
yeah. It's a great, like, very beautiful little art style. And even within, so like the game itself, you kind of choose which levels you're going to go to based on the story you choose, and then within those levels there are multiple paths that you can kind of take to get various upgrades and experience points, and you can unlock certain doors with certain like magical weapons, which will unlock other experience building stuff. Yeah, just a like very much a like a choose your own adventure in a video game sense that isn't just narrative based. It's choose your own adventure gameplay based as well.
Huh.
If that
All
makes
right.
sense.
No, that makes sense. It is cool. It
Yep.
seems cool. I've heard good things. I do want to check it out.
Yep.
Number 7.
Number 7, Headlander. Um, this was so Headlander and Song of the Deep came out at about the same time, both Metroidvania games. Headlander is the like it's from Adult Swim and Double Fine. It is like based on 70s 80s sci-fi. You are basically a head that can like that has a jetpack on the bottom of his helmet, and flying around in space you can jump off. You can like use a vacuum to suction off robots heads, and then like put your head on their body, and that basically acts as the Metroidvania gate paths. So like you need to get through a red door. Well, you got to find a red guard. You get through a blue door. You got to find a blue guard, kind of. That's kind of its big one of its big mechanics there, Metroidvania style mechanics, and it's just quirky humor. It hit me way more than Song of the Deep did because it's very fast paced, whereas Song of the Deep was very intentionally calming and a little bit lethargic for my taste, for what I was looking for at that point in time. So the oddball, off the wall humor of popping my head off of a robot and then popping onto like a Roomba and going through like a small door to collect like the next bit of or to fulfill like the next random task, because as you're doing this, you're trying to like take over this base, the star base from like a rogue AI basically. Yeah, it's like just a fun, just like pure fun gameplay. Great. It was my favorite Metroidvania of the year. So kind of like looking back again on the list I did last year and with you, I believe 7 was the Ori and the Blind Forest slot. So I found it very fitting that like Headlander basically ended up popping that out and then putting it in here.
Yeah, it's cool. That's Lee Petty's game. He directed that. He did Stacking, which I am a big fan of. I don't know if you've ever played that.
I've not.
It's a similar idea, except you're essentially Russian nesting dolls. So you're like the littlest doll, and you can stack into other dolls, which then can stack into bigger dolls to do things. So it does kind of remind me of Headlander in that, like, using other people to solve puzzles or whatever.
Nice.
I have not played it. I have it because they pretty much gave it to everyone at PSX.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to play it. God knows when I'd have the time, but Metroidvania is pretty much all you have to say for me to want to play it.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
So if you get around to it, I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Number 6.
6.
6. Ratchet and Clank. I had never played any of the Ratchet and Clank games before this year's reboot came out. I
so many
demoed
people.
it at PSX last year. It was just in the golden era of PlayStation platformers like Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Daxter and Sly Cooper. I don't know what I was doing, but I was not playing platformer games. So I had missed all of those. I finally played Jack and Daxter a few years ago in the PlayStation 3 collection. And yeah, this was the first Ratchet and Clank game I played. And I had just like Sunset Overdrive, to this day is my favorite Xbox game. And like Ratchet and Clank was one of those I always looked at from the outside and was like, oh, like that looks like fun. I love like the absurdity of some of these weapons that I'm seeing in footage and trailers and stuff. But I didn't ever really get into the Insomniac kind of gameplay mindset until Sunset Overdrive. And so when for the brief couple weeks this year when Ratchet and Clank came out, Insomniac had my favorite exclusive on both Xbox and PlayStation, because I just had such a great time with Ratchet and Clank. Playing through it, went through, got the platinum. It is certainly one of those that like it's the first experience I think I've had where the chase for the platinum at the end, I have to fight the urge to let that sour my taste on the game, because I basically like you have to beat the game twice to get the platinum, and then you have to like level up all your weapons and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, once you beat the game, there aren't enemies. Like there isn't an abundance of enemies. So I just had to like replay the same small sections and just slowly like add experience to the last couple weapons I needed. Yeah. And so I probably did that alone for like 4 hours one night, probably while listening. I'm almost certain. Yeah. I remember specifically it was while I was listening to you and when Allie was on the show at one point this year, listening to you guys talk about Dark Souls 3 was while I was doing my Ratchet and Clank grind for the final trophies that I needed for that platinum. But so taking that final little bit out of it, just the charm and the humor, gameplay was just phenomenal. It was very much in the same spirit as what I'd kind of gotten from Sunset Overdrive.
It's a pretty game too.
Very, very pretty game. Absolutely. Beautiful. Beautiful art style and graphics and everything. Yeah, just ton of fun. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it, having like no affinity for the series myself.
Are you in now? If there's another one, will you play it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If they keep going with it, I'm down for whatever comes next. I don't know if I'm like, I don't know. I don't see myself going back and playing the old ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. I had a grand old time with this one. Gameplay was like, even if the stories like just fall off a cliff, I had a ton of fun with the gameplay on this. So
yeah, it's cool. I'm glad that the North Carolina studio finally got it.
Yeah,
just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Number five,
which I have again you and your compatriots to blame for this, Stardew Valley.
That's low. That's lower than I thought it would be.
That's I mean, I'm pretty happy with like the 4 I have above it. So
okay.
But yeah, Stardew Valley. I as a lifelong like Harvest Moon fan, going back to the Super Nintendo when it first came over, I remember distinctly going to my friend Luke's house and like he had the game and I played it and I was like, I need this game. So like immediately went out and found it myself and so been a fan of the series and that kind of game ever since then. And so when I start seeing like Stardew Valley pop up in like all these articles and stuff, I'm like, oh, like screw all of you guys. I've been a fan of the farming dating sim for like nearly 20 years. Where have all of you been? And then I came on Irrational Passions and I think Tony, I think the week before Cam had been on or something, and Scott sold him on it. And the week I was on, Tony sold me on it. And I immediately was, or it might have been vice versa. It might have been Scott that sold me on it. But I bought it while we were on a break from the show. And then over the next few weeks proceeded to pour 80 hours into the game.
Yeah.
Documenting my journey with basically a makeshift journal of my experiences over on Trevor Trove, labeled Starkey Valley.
Yep.
And yeah, it was very much a love letter to the Super Nintendo Harvest Moon that I grew up with and loved, and just a ton of fun. I loved pretty much every moment of that I spent with that game. It had the throwback art style for me. I'm so glad I played it at the beginning of the year. Rather than like waiting until it came out now to try and squeeze it into all of the game of the year stuff.
You're telling me.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a ton of fun. The only reason it's probably not higher on the list and the reason like I'm not super eager to go back to it is because I know I will get addicted to it. And like, I just want to, like, there's too much other stuff that I want to play. Whereas if I really like just sat down with it, I'd be like, nope, I'm in for another 2 years with this game. And so I kind of needed to like wrap up my time with it and move on. But I'm sure it will become like, I still revisit my favorite Harvest Moon which is the PlayStation 1 Back to Nature. I still revisit that every few years, where I'll play through like a few seasons of that game, like now on my Vita. So I imagine Stardew Valley will absolutely kind of become like comfort food game for me.
Yeah. Playing it now, I mean, I like it. I feel like I'm not as in love with it as most other people are, but I haven't also, like, I've done like just part of what makes that game special. Like, I haven't really talked to anyone yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in fall, the second to last day of fall.
I admittedly didn't get too much into the community stuff myself, outside of like, I had this, as I documented, I had a, Abigail beat me at the Easter egg hunt that first spring, and I immediately hated her. And then I start like writing about how much I hate her, and then like I talk to her and I find out she's into video games. I'm like, okay, this is a problem.
Oh no!
And then it became a I don't know, storybook romance in that like we hated each other at first, but then like I just started giving her amethyst all the time and just started racking up the love with her. And so yeah, ultimately on the last day of my game, so like the end of year 2, like starting year 3, basically, we gave birth to our first son.
Aw.
Yeah. So yeah, and that was just like, so like I will remember more about just the random fun stories I told with that game than I will probably remember the game itself, until I go back to it. But yeah, because the gameplay loop itself is just a very familiar loop to me. Like I'm seeing everybody kind of play it, and I'm like, I don't remember which character's which when you're dropping names. So I'm like, I wasn't invested in the town so much, but I was invested in fixing up the community center and collecting a little bit of everything and making a great farm and getting all these animals and stuff. So it was, yeah, I had a ton of fun with the game. And it could have been much worse.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4. This is another one that originally when I first wrote this up a few weeks ago was lower on the list. It's probably in like the 8 or 9 slot, I think. And then I went back to it and played 2 more times through it, and that is Dishonored 2. I've played through 3 times now. I got the platinum for it, and I love like everything about the game. The world design, the level design, the environmental storytelling, the subtle ways it tells its story at times. Both characters, while like the story doesn't change, both characters play very differently and can play very differently depending on if you're playing like stealthily or like on a murder spree.
Yeah.
And it just gives so much flexibility. It was very much like before this game came out, Deus Ex Mankind Divided probably would have had a spot on my list. But then like I knew that this was always on the horizon.
Yeah.
I played Deus Ex twice myself, and then Dishonored came out. So Dishonored came out. I started out playing through like a full stealth, no kill run. Then I got to a point in the conservatory where there was a glitch in the early days, where like when you like trigger the non-lethal way to end that level, like some of the enemies around the map, if you had like knocked them out, they just suddenly died. And so suddenly I had like a death on my count. I'm like, what? And so I try and figure out what happened. I go and Google and see that there's this patch that was already fixed at the time on PC, but it hadn't been fixed on PlayStation yet. So I was like, okay, well, PSX is about to come up. I'm going to dive into Final Fantasy 15 anyway. So I just, in the meantime, did basically a bum rush through with a lethal playthrough with Corvo, and just murdered everything completely through the game. Had a ton of fun doing that. Then I came back after Final Fantasy 15, finished that stealth run because the thing had been patched now, and then just to do some like trophy cleanup and stuff, I decided to play another run through with no powers, and just kind of like knocking people out. But then if I got discovered and killing them just became easier, I had no problem killing. Yeah. So it was very and just every one of those playthroughs was a ton of fun. Gave me a ton of like great fun story moments in how cool I took out such and such a guard, or how I dominoed these 3 guards together because I only had 1 sleep dart left and I needed to like get past that room. Just yeah, a lot of fun, so much diversity in that game. It's a quintessential example of the sandbox game that gives you all the tools and says, here's an objective, do what you want. I was never disappointed by like, oh, I wish I could do this in that game.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's like some of my favorite levels of any video game ever.
Oh, absolutely. Like the Clockwork level.
Yeah. People always talk about the Clockwork Mansion, but for me it was the other mansion level.
The Stilton Manor? Yeah. That's
such
another one I highlighted, yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible level. It's just brilliant. and it's so intricate, and there's so many like little, really just little things in each level. Like I would spend like 2 hours in each level minimum, just like looking at stuff, which I try not to do in games, or like I never want to, really. But that game makes you want to do. Yeah, it's super smart. I want to go back and play as Corvo at some point. It's just like that did come out right in the middle of things, but I really loved every second I had with it.
Yeah, that was the like when I finished Final Fantasy 15, I was like, what do I want to go into? Do I want to go into Last Guardian? Do I want to go back to Watch Dogs? No, I want to go to Dishonored 2. That's what I had. That's what I was having fun with. I want to go back and do that stealth run, which can absolutely be a pain in the butt. But I was so glad I'd just done the murder spree because it gave me a better sense of like where the guards were and like what paths I would need to take when I did the stealth run anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just like I finished up I finished up the stealth run. I was like, yeah, I finished that up and then I dove immediately back into a third run of the game and just played it through one more time, all in one go that day. Just because I was having so much fun with it.
Yeah, I love that. The guy, the Duke's house level is also so good. Yeah,
yeah.
That the second half of that game is phenomenal.
Yeah. And so I think you highlighted to me something when you were talking about it on Irrational Passions, something I wasn't aware of because I played the first one, but I only played the core game.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you started mentioning about how Delilah is so integral to one of the DLC stories in that first game, which I hadn't played. And so, like, I love that game, having just played Dishonored 1 without the extra stuff, but then going through after the fact and, like, I haven't gone back and played Dishonored 1 or the DLC, but, like, reading synopses of it, I was like, oh, like, that would have given me such a different perspective on some of the characters in the game because I would have had that like extra knowledge. So I don't think I missed out on anything so much as I think having played the DLC would have been a much more additive experience because any of the like the crucial stuff they tell you.
Yeah, like I haven't seen all the DLC from the first one either. I've seen there's two parts. I've seen the first half of it, but you still get a little bit of that, and it's cool to hear them reference back to what happens with Dowd and everything. It's cool.
Yeah. So in my review, I was like, usually when you have a sequel, it assumes that nobody played like the DLC in almost like every instance. So the fact that this one paid as much, if not more, homage to the DLC content of the first game as it did like the main Corvo Emily dynamic was really impressive to me. Like, I mean, none of the major kills or anything from that first game really like matter or carry over. And so really you're just left with, that as Corvo, you saved Emily, 15 years ago and Jessamine died. And that's pretty much all that like directly ties to the first game. So the fact that you have characters from Knife of Denwall and the Brigmore, which is kind of carried forward that you wouldn't have known otherwise, was like it was a surprising and interesting move that make me want to go back and play Dishonored 1 again and play through the DLC to just get more of their story.
It's cool. And like Megan, the one of the main characters is part of that as well. So
that's I didn't know. Like I know these are like fair game for spoilers, but I didn't know if we wanted to delve into it. If I like that's like I knowing Megan only from this game first, and then like finding out who Megan is, which is much more apparent if you played the other game. It was a nice like twist for me, having not played the other games.
It's cool. It's something I kind of like pieced together as I was playing it. I was like, oh yeah, it was just a nice little touchback. Yeah, it's cool that there's interconnective tissue between those games. I really hope they make another one. So.
Yeah, me too.
Number three,
Doom. Single-handedly got me back into like first-person shooters this year. Because outside of like, I was thinking back, like outside of Destiny and like the Borderlands games, I haven't sought out a shooter in a long time. Like I played through like a couple of the Halo games last year, but for the most part, I'm like, that's not what I typically kind of gravitate towards. But Doom came out, and I was like, at first I was reticent because I'm like, I love that I grew up with Doom. But that was when like Doom wasn't nearly as like graphic and gory, and I'm just not a huge fan of gore. But like then it came out and everybody's like, oh my god, this game is amazing. It absolutely like nails the spirit of those original games. So I picked it up and quickly got over the like aversion to gore just because it's so over the top and absurd.
It's ridiculous.
And yeah, like no, in my mind, no shooter should feel slower than Doom ever. Like that should be the new base point for games. For shooter games is like just how like you like from those opening scenes and I don't know if you've seen the No Clip documentary that Danny O'Dwyer did.
Not yet, but soon.
Like it's great, and they like dedicate basically an entire episode of the three episode documentary to like how they perfected the opening sequence of that game, from coming up off the table to like looking at the Doom suit to shoving the screen out of the way because yes, of course, an invasion from hell is in process or whatever, to like the tutorials, to the glory kills, to like all the way through to like you go on that elevator and you cock that shotgun just as like the heavy metal hits and you get off the elevator, and that they talk about how they like how much work went into perfecting that like introductory sequence to which just like kicks you in the face and says, this is the tone of this game. You're in or you're out. We're going now. And I loved like every minute of it. It was just like nonstop fun. Like I appreciated the like leveling up my weapons. The like glory kills were just absurdly fun. Just ripping an eyeball out of one of those things, or like ripping heads off of demons,
ripping everything,
basically. Like I almost never did like the chainsaw kills because I just always wanted to like just go up and just rip things in two myself. Yeah, like they just it so perfectly nails the attitude, and the music of that game is so like just energetic and like makes you feel powerful. And yeah, the speed of it, like this game basically made me say, okay, I want to go back and play Wolfenstein. And then when all the fall shooters came out, when Titanfall came out, when Battlefield came out, and when Infinite Warfare came out, I played all of them this year. And Titanfall, from the honorable mentions, came closest to like the speed of Doom. But like Doom for me now needs to be like, there's no excuse for not making a game go at that pace.
Yeah.
Like unless it is a very deliberate choice to make it slow. Like I get why Battlefield 1 isn't at that pace. But like for me and for the kind of game I'm looking for when I go into that, like, yeah, I'm here because I want to kill demons. That's why I'm playing Doom. Yeah. So it recognizes that and says, here, we're going to get you to that as quickly as possible.
It goes from like Doom to The Witness. It's just like little different pacing.
Yeah.
Very little. Yeah. I'm with you. I like Doom. It's secretly Metroid Prime 4. I'm going to keep telling people that because it's true. And there is like this unabashedness to that game that it shouldn't have, but it's all the better because it does, right? So that game was essentially dead in so many ways, and then it comes back like a phoenix from the ashes, like yelling like, this is who I am, and I'm proud. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just like the fact that it reinvigorated like a dormant love for an entire genre for me. Is a huge selling point as to why it's so high on the list, and it's just amazing in and of itself.
Yeah,
like that's the fact that it reinvigorated my love of the genre is that's the tipping point that put it over Dishonored 2 for me. Because in both of those instances, I just like I had a grand time with every bit of it.
Did you like the boss fights in Doom?
They were fine. I like they were forgettable for me in all honesty. But it like that it just like with Titanfall, like I didn't think of those games as like games about the boss fights, even though Titanfall is much more like framed as a game about the boss fights. Um, I like my memories of both of those games are from the the moments in between the boss fights. So yeah, there weren't like I got much more stressed out in like just the random demon like monster closets where I was getting just overwhelmed and overrun by beasts than I did necessarily in like the quote unquote boss fights.
Yeah, I like the boss fights.
Yeah.
I thought they were
Like
fun.
I will say like I got to the final one, I beat him and I was like, "Oh, that was the end?" Oh, I want it like I want more.
I did want more at the end. I will say that much.
Yeah.
It was
It felt like that was about to ramp up for like a part 2 or something. And I was
mhm.
like, "Oh, no. Nope, I'm done now." Okay.
Yeah, you murdered that thing.
Yeah, I murdered that demon.
Yeah,
Neat.
it was good. Number two.
Number 2, Uncharted 4: Thief's End, a game you and I have spoken extensively about
Yeah,
when I came on and did the spoiler cast with you guys for a few hours.
is this
Um,
is this a surprise for you that it's this high?
that it's this high,
Yeah.
it's a surprise for me that it wasn't one. Um, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
No, because I like as soon like when I finished that game, um, like that is everything I wanted from an Uncharted game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the the reasons it's not one are because at the end of the day it was still more Uncharted instead of giving me something newer that I wanted from it. So it's some new experience. It's the best of Uncharted for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I can still look back and think about like great moments in that game. On I had Ben Bellevue on Trove Talk a few weeks ago, and he chose Uncharted 4 as his favorite game. So we were like talking about it, and just immediately like all of these great memories were flooding back to me. Um, but just the characters, the interplay between them, the storytelling, the worlds, the visual leaps that they made from the last generation into to this one, like Madagascar, just beautiful. Um, uh, Pretty much everything on Libertalia. The going back to
Yeah.
like Dishonored and talking about like um, environmental storytelling, the storytelling that's going on like 3 levels in Uncharted 4 remains like a pinnacle of that kind of storytelling for me.
Yeah.
In any game, let alone a game from this year. The fact that you've got kind of Nate's journey going in parallel with the journey of the original pirates, as well as like the in between journey of the previous expeditions trying to find Libertalia. Like all 3 of them are happening kind of simultaneously, and you're seeing how every one of those are breaking down, and you're worried that like it's going to happen to Nate too.
Mm-hmm.
And I also got to make this reference on my show, so I'm going to make it here too. I end up loving Rafe um, the most out of any of the Uncharted villains, because Rafe, as it turns out, is the Aaron Burr to Nathan Drake's Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
If you are a fan of the hit musical Hamilton, because like Rafe has watched from afar while Nate has become this like crazy adventurer who, for the last 15 years since they last saw each other. He's watched that Nathan Drake has discovered El Dorado and Shambhala, and I still don't remember what the thing that they found in Uncharted 3 was.
The gin.
The gin, yeah. The magic bottle that like poisoned people.
Jumbo juice.
Yeah, that thing. But yeah, so like that, like seeing it and making that realization that Rafe is a villain who has a personal vendetta against Nate and Sully, just gave it that much more impact. Even if I didn't like the mechanics of the final fight, as I think it has some of the same problems that every Uncharted final fight has. Like the fact that there was like an emotional weight to this one that you didn't have with Navarro, you didn't have with Lazarevich, you didn't have with Talbot. Um,
Talbot. Oh,
yeah.
Talbot.
Oh, Talbot. Like that made the final battle just that much more. Like it gave it that much more oomph behind it. Um, yeah. Like Uncharted. Um, Everything I love about Uncharted and more, but still also like a lot of the things that irk me about Uncharted. Um,
You don't like crates? You don't like climbing on crates?
Climbing on crates, I'm fine with. It's like snapping to crates and trying to have cover behind crates and then snapping to the wrong side of a crate, or accidentally rolling off a cliff because I was trying to snap to a crate. Um, it's those things that still like feel as clunky as they did in like Uncharted 2 or 3. They're not as bad as Uncharted 1, but they were still like they still just weren't as tight as I wanted them to be. So it's like it's a combination of that. It's like Uncharted for better and worse at times, and that's like the. I mean, that's very nitpicky on me, but like that's the worst of Uncharted. And so it was that like if some of those things had also been fixed, it probably would have taken my top spot.
All right. We did a spoiler cast on that game.
Yep.
I believe I've now had everyone who was on that spoiler cast do top 10. So almost
Hooray.
everyone. One left.
Yeah.
Jacob Bryant's out there somewhere.
Oh,
just hanging out.
that guy.
He'll be on one. So yeah, that's I really, really, really like that game.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. All right. Fuck
So
all those
one,
games.
Fuck all those games. The number one game that beats out even Uncharted, beats out Doom, beats out everything else. No, God no. Yeah, I got to level 10 in Overwatch. So I named it my game of the year.
Woo!
No, I am giving this to The Witness, which I didn't even like. It was not even on my radar, even at the beginning of this year when it was like only a month out from being released. It wasn't until like reviews started hitting, people started talking about it, that I was like, oh, this is like a puzzle game? Okay, like I want to play that. And I just fell deep down the rabbit hole on it for like the first few weeks it was out. And the reason it stands out above everything else, it's a beautiful design. It's it is like the perfection of simple concept, and everything you can do with that concept. The concept of starting with a full circle and having to like go through a maze to a semicircle to solve a puzzle, very easy. But then you throw in all of the different like modifiers to the puzzles, and everything has rules, and it's just a matter of like learning the rules of this game. There is no being cheated by this game. You might come across a puzzle before you are intended to, before you know what those symbols mean, but you can find those symbols somewhere else on the island and get kind of the instructional tutorial-ish level of those puzzles to say, hey, we're going to kind of introduce this to you piecemeal, and you're going to have to remember that when you come across this puzzle over on the other side of the island, in 2 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
I was playing it right when it was right when it came out, right after it came out, and for my own like sanity, or not sanity, just for my own like I guess pride, probably just because I'm an arrogant, egotistical jerk. I refuse to look up any kind of hints or anything online. Anytime I would see anything like, oh, this is how you solve this kind of thing, I like immediately was looking away and shutting down the browsers and stuff. So I was like just progressing through that game, and there were times where I ran into like I was like, I don't know. I've been looking at this thing for 3 hours and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to walk away, and I would go and like play something when I beat it for a little bit, and then come back to it the next day or something. And in that fresh mindset, something would click, and I could solve, like I figured out what I was looking for and why I wasn't looking at it the right way or something like that. So every like accomplishment in that game was a combination of me solving a problem and the exquisite design that led me to solving that problem.
Mm.
The toughest challenge in that game is a timed series of I think 11 puzzles, where you basically have like you turn on a phonograph, it starts playing Ride of the Valkyries, and you have to go through 11 completely randomized puzzles, solve them in like before the song ends, to get to like a final thing, which like pops a trophy, which then like was the last thing I needed for the platinum in that game. And I probably tried that 100, 200 times over the course of a week, just kind of like nonstop, just endlessly trying to get through this. And it would be like, it would like the puzzles were in waves. So I would solve the first set of puzzles and be like, okay, oh, and now there's a completely new thing I need to figure out. So it was like trial and error, learning everything. And then it was finally just once I knew what needed to happen every time, it was sometimes just a matter of like luck to get the puzzle that like you would that that would trigger my mind to say, okay, this is what I need to do right here, and just I could do it by autopilot or something. Um, and getting that trophy and getting the platinum for that game again, all without any of the like the endless guides that are out there now to kind of like defeat the entire purpose of the game. That platinum trophy is my proudest gaming achievement and probably will be for a while.
Mm.
And it all came from not shooting endless waves of guys. It was logic and puzzle solving, which I just like made me realize how little of it we have in games because of how like the vocal community around the game saying like, oh, I don't like this game because it's puzzles. Like, and I was like, do you like it because you don't like puzzles, or do you like it because you haven't trained your brain to like puzzles because you just don't have like, if I give my sister a shooter, she's not going to like that game because she doesn't have like the ample experience of playing shooters because she's not a gamer. Um, but like she likes Sudoku and stuff like that, so she might be much more attuned to this game. But because we just have so much, since like shooting and killing stuff is just so much of the medium, I think that's just like what we all understand. We have that common vernacular, and so it's rare when something like this comes along and um, and shakes things up in such a way that it rewired my brain to go through and like figure out how I needed to play this game, and I loved it for that. And I mean, it's like outside of all that, it's beautiful to boot. But yeah, it's the fact that it was completely off my radar, and that it was so reliant on like me learning the rules of this world to solve these puzzles and get through the game. And I still don't know, what most of it means. Um, I'm sure I could like dive into Reddit forums or something to like try and discuss with people, but the puzzles themselves were what like will stand out for me in that game. And I'm sure I could go back to it and start playing it again, and 11 months removed, have just as great a time because so much of that is already like left my mind. And there will be some things where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember how to do this. But then there will be a ton where I'm like, I'm lost again. I'm lost in the woods again. And it will be fantastic to like revisit that. Like I've had that experience on like even the Go games, the Lara Croft Go games. I've like replayed that this like in the last month or so, having played it a year ago. It was on my list last year with you, and like even those puzzles, like still felt fresh because they were so far out of my mind. So something like The Witness, like it's another one that I will go back to just to like I will play it like Brain Age basically for like probably every year for the coming years, just to like try and keep my mind sharp.
Mm. What was your favorite mechanic in The Witness?
How do you mean? Like my favorite of
Like
the
the puzzle mechanics of each section of the world?
I probably like the like for my mind like the Tetris blocky things, where you have to kind of like you'll see you might see the L shape, and so now you have to figure out how to make that L shape in the map and like encompass it.
Yeah.
And like as you add more of those, you start to learn, oh, okay, I've got I've got an L and a square, and I could have them like as completely distinct things, or I can, if I can connect them, I can just use a shape that like encompasses both of those shapes and not have to kind of break up the lines twice.
Yeah.
So it was like that, like those tiers of those kinds of puzzles are the ones that that probably stand out. I also, I mean, like I really loved the like I think it was like the greenhouse or something like that, where it's you've got it's very color based. So I have no idea what it would be like to play it as a colorblind person,
Yeah.
but like you're going in there and you'll see the colors, but you have to realize that you have to look at them through like a tinted lens to get the real colors of the puzzle. That was just another fun, like I loved that kind of look. It was a game entirely about looking at things a new way, which is exactly what I needed this year to like to look at games a new way, and The Witness delivered on that.
Yeah. I have a lot of pictures of greenhouse pictures on my phone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had the the manic scrawlings on like grid paper.
Yeah.
That I would
I have
just like.
a
I was
lot
like,
of.
oh, like okay, let's try this. Let's try this way.
I have a note on my phone that's like, okay, well, the purple flowers are red through this pane, so that means purple blocks are red. And
Yeah.
just like I looking like a goddamn lunatic.
Yeah.
It very much did remind me of Fez and some of that stuff. And those games don't. They're just so hard to make. They're so intricate. They don't come around that often.
Yeah. That's like I wish there were like it makes me appreciate something like the New York Times crossword puzzle or something, where like that's coming out every day. Like people are out there making those things every day. I wish we were getting games like this or puzzles like this, like maybe not every year, but more frequently than we do.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, like yeah, we get them like monthly, or we get a here's a daily witness puzzle, go solve it. That'd be fun. I would absolutely like
Gotta do
that
your
would be
dailies.
something I would play every day.
Yeah.
To yeah, like again, going off like the brain age model, I would like keep my brain smart, or keep my brain active, with that kind of activity. So yeah, again, like that's like all of that. It's it's probably like egotistical or something in a like the game made me feel smart, so that's why I'm putting it like number one on my list. But fine, I don't care. Like the game made me feel smart. It made me feel really fucking smart when I solved some of those puzzles that had like banged my head against the wall for 3 hours. It wasn't that I just kept dying at the same moment in another video game, or I couldn't figure out like it wasn't like the struggles of Bloodborne, where I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do to kill this boss, but it's just not like I'm my hands aren't making it work, or he suddenly pulls this other move on me and now I'm dead, because I got like cornered against a gravestone or something like that. Again, like I go back to The Witness, there is no like you feel cheated in this game. The closest you come to that is in that like randomized time-based challenge, but even those, like the puzzles are all of like an equivalent difficulty level, that you're kind of going through. It's just a matter of like, did this, like when you saw this puzzle, did it immediately click like you need it to in that time sensitive manner, or did it take you those few extra seconds to get the solution and now you're going to run out of time by the end?
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, I love The Witness.
Yeah. I can tell. It's good. I mean, like, you're the first person to have it on their list so far that I've done this with.
Well, fuck all your other 8 people then for not having it on their list anywhere, let alone at number 1.
Not even an honorable mention. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. It's
because they're stupid. It's because they were stupid and they didn't get it. They didn't solve the puzzles.
People,
they felt stupid. It's a game that made them feel stupid. I'm blaming all of your other guests on that.
People have forgotten about that game.
That's another thing. Yeah, like it was very beginning of the year. That's like all year I've been like I've had a spreadsheet going basically. As I play a game, I throw it on there and I throw on like notes of like, for the game of the year conversation, these are things I want to remember.
Yeah, I have a doc for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Oxenfree was another one that was on there. Like that from January, I was like, I need to not forget this game come game of the year because of just the enjoyment I had. And Witness was absolutely another one of those where I was like, this is a game that a lot of people aren't going to get, a lot of people aren't going to like, and that a lot of people are going to forget about come the end of the year. And like, I thought it being missed from like the Game Awards nominations. I was like, boo, boo Game Awards, boo all of you outlets that voted.
Yeah.
Boo, Kind of Funny, who didn't even play it. Boo.
It's yeah. I didn't finish that game. I have problems with it, but you know that's a different conversation. I think it is still very very incredibly well made. That's a good list.
Thank you. Those are my 10-ish games plus my 10 plus games.
Your 11 games, yeah.
My top 10 11 games. My top 10 games of 2016.
So, looking forward.
Yes.
Besides Persona 4, Persona 5.
Persona 5. I knew this question was coming, and I knew Persona 5 would be the caveat of like, don't include that
because it's obviously that is everyone in the world is looking forward to Persona 5, even if they don't know it.
Was it? I feel like. Did you have basically the same question last year where it was like, besides Persona 5, what's going to be your most anticipated game in 2016?
It was mostly valid to say Persona 5 last year. I was just there's some people that I know always. That's the most anticipated game always. Forever. Even after it comes out. But besides Persona 5.
Besides Persona 5, I am looking forward to South Park: The Fractured Butthole.
Yeah, is that January?
I don't know when it's coming out at this point. Maybe February, March. It was supposed to come out in December. That was the original date they gave it. I don't think they were ever going to hit that date. But yeah, so it's coming out sometime early next year. The first game, one of the funniest games I've ever played. It was one of my favorite games that came out that year. I want to say it was like in my top 3 or something. It just looks fun. I love that they're giving it a bit more of a Final Fantasy Tactics kind of feel in combat where like movement matters.
Yeah.
I think it's a good evolution of the game. And it's a game I didn't think we were going to get, let alone get again so quickly. Because like Matt and Trey came out after the Stick of Truth and were like, yeah, we're never making a fucking game again. That was torture. That was hell. And so when they came out and announced it, I was like, what? And soon? Neat. So yeah, that's what I'm outside of Persona 5. That's what I'm looking most forward to. I mean, you've got also things like Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm sure are going to be great. Zelda.
Are you sure?
I mean, like I hope they're going to be great. Yeah. I hope everything I've seen of Horizon. I didn't play it at PSX, but I watched people playing it, and it looks like what I want from that game.
Yeah. Looks all right.
Yeah.
Looks real pretty, actually. I'll say that much.
I'll try and I'm going to PAX South in a month.
You gonna make the Switch?
I'm gonna try and play some Switch.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can play some Zelda Breath of the Wild or something there, and basically just flaunt it to everybody who's not there, like you.
Yeah.
Jerk.
I'm sorry. I'm starting my school education.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I'm poor. And
I mean, fix that poor thing.
Yeah, well, I'm working on it. And
I mean, I was poor when I was your age. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's required. It humbles you.
Yeah,
kind of. Well, it didn't humble you, but
it did. But then I got money, and the humbleness just walked away.
Just went away. Yeah.
Then I started making like twice what I was making overnight, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. Fuck this. I'm never going back to that other shit." Poor.
Poor, are you kidding me? Cool. And Persona 5.
Persona 5, like, I've had that on pre-order as soon as, like, I woke up one morning, they were like, pre-orders are available. I was like, oh no, I hope I didn't miss them.
I'm there, yeah. It's like, no, they're still taking pre-orders. That game will be fine.
I mean, I don't quite get why a game that's already out got delayed, but okay.
You gotta localize it, man.
I guess localization is a longer process than I thought. I mean, we still haven't gotten Mother 3, so
you gotta make this right. My thing is like you only get one shot to get localization right. You don't mess that up, especially for like Persona.
I mean, unless you're Final Fantasy 15, and then you're gonna get extra shots.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it already it lost its shot, so
there you go.
They can do whatever they want, but that shot's gone. So like Persona doesn't want to be that game, so. And I think those games have like a history of being localized very, very well. So
Yeah.
so
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Persona 4 Dancing All Night was on my list of games that came out a year other than this year that I didn't play until this year. That was on my top 10 of those kinds of games, which I think just went live today as we're recording this. So
That game's all right. There's some dancing in it.
there's some dancing in it. Absolutely.
Trevor, one more time for people who don't know for some reason. Where can people hear your voice, see you, hear you on Twitters?
You can find me on Twitter at Starkey. It's Starkey has an E, Snarky does not, because that's not how Snarky is spelled.
Fun fact.
Yeah. You can find my my writings and ramblings over at trevortrove.com. And there's like my podcast is Trove Talk, where I invite awesome people like Alex to come and talk on my gaming and getting to know you podcast. You find that on my YouTube, which like is just easiest to find the link for that in like on Trove Talk or Trevor Trove or my Twitter.
Cool.
Or follow that Twitter account at Trove Talk.
Clear your week, clear your schedule if you're gonna listen to that podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Average length of a show is like 4 hours, which is why I break it out topic by topic, day by day, like some other people we might know.
Yeah. So that way it's like average length of a show is still over an hour.
Yes. It typically falls, the gaming history topic is like 2 hours, and then everything else after that is like a half hour to an hour-ish. Favorite game and the non-gaming topic, and then just the bevy of questions we get from people. Yeah. And then outside of that, you can occasionally find, and hopefully there will be more of this in the coming year, you can find me writing over for IGN as well. I'm a freelance news writer for them, and hopefully I will someday transition that into something less freelancey.
Yeah. I'm rooting for you, pulling for you.
Me too.
And if you like this, you should keep it here on the Irrational Passions YouTube channel or our RSS feed, wherever you've decided to listen and or view this. Because there's more top 10s, more guests, more podcasts. Irrational Passions Game of the Year podcasts, video games are being talked about in a very definitive manner. And I'm there through all of them. So I'm like the constant. I'm the rock. I'm your rock on this journey through everyone's top 10 games of 2016. So come with me. I am Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, is what I'm saying. And I hope
welcome.
you like. You're welcome. Exactly. I hope you're liking this. And as always, it's been my pleasure to serve you.